Welcome back to Up the Villa opposition preview time. Joined again by Jake from West Ham Unofficial. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, not bad. All things considered, a turbulent week in West Ham, but yeah, good to see you, mate.
Yeah, I mean, last time we spoke was previewing our game at the start of the season where you had sort of like excitement with a new era, and sort of like 5-6 months later, you've got a new manager. Here we are talking about the FA Cup game. So just talk to us a little bit about your season so far with Lopetegui, and then we'll get into sort of like what's been going on like this week.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of symbolic, as you said. We go back to the first game of the season. I was sat here hoping for the best and ready for a fresh start. And if you had said to me 6 months later, I'd be sat on your show again with a new manager imminently announced, then I'd be taken aback. And yeah, we never got off the ground, really. And it started on the opening day and it sort of carried on throughout the season. It's just defensively we've been so bad. We've leaked goals for fun. We have conceded, I think there's a stat, we've conceded 3 or more goals in 8 of our 20 Premier League games. That's up 10% on the same stat last season. We've just leaked too many goals, and then up the pitch we've lacked confidence to score goals. So fundamentally we've been conceding too many and we haven't scored enough. That's why you lose football matches, and that's why we found ourselves in this position now. A lot of West Ham fans were just disillusioned because we couldn't see a style of play, couldn't see any identity. At least with Moyes last season, we knew what we were going to get. It was potluck in the 6 months Lopetegui was in charge, unfortunately, because we literally didn't have a clue.
So when did you sort of like start to feel like this wasn't going to go the way you sort of wanted it to?
I tried to remain optimistic, and I think I remained optimistic for a little while longer than most, actually. And we've got battered quite a few times this season against big clubs, but we've taken some hidings over the 6 months. And we had a rocky period back at the start of November, and then we went up to Newcastle and against all odds beat them and played them off the park. It was utterly bizarre. And that was the real game. I think if we'd have lost that, then he'd have gone then. But we won that game and you couldn't sack him off the back of that. So then it enters this never-ending cycle of if you win 1 out of the 3, then he stays. And he did that for a while, but the owners have finally pulled the plug. I think it was around that October, November time I stood back and went, hang on, this isn't working. And yeah, the board held off for a little while longer, but it seemed inevitable for about a month now.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a chaotic mess this week. I mean, We've recorded this on Wednesday and he's took training today and he's been sacked today. So what's sort of gone on this week that has meant it's just looks really messy?
It's been farcical, to be quite honest. It's been an absolute shambles. I don't have too much sympathy for Lopetegui, but you can't help but feel we all knew he was going to get sacked. Everybody on West Ham Twitter woke up today knowing at some point he was going to get sacked, and yet he still took training today. For 3 days, we've known pretty much that he was going to get sacked. It was just keep, refreshing every hour. He's still not been sacked. And people were saying that, and there was images of Potter. And, apparently we've agreed yesterday at one point, we'd agreed a deal for Potter, but Lopetegui still in charge. And I'm like, what is going on here? And like, if I was Lopetegui, I'd have went down the pub. It was really, really bizarre. And again today, woke up, he got into the training ground 9:30 as normal, took training. Us know full well that by the end of the day, he wasn't going to be manager. Utterly bizarre, handled dreadfully, I must say, by the people upstairs. And yeah, it's bemusing, to be honest. I don't know why they just didn't sack him after the Man City game and get it done and dusted on Sunday, to be quite frank, and then look for a new manager. But to actively be trying to get and securing pretty much a manager whilst we still had one in post, not a good look.
No, it's not really. But you've got Potter then. So how are you feeling with Potter? Is it sort of what you wanted to happen in pre-season this season? Or, how are you feeling about it? What do you think he'll be able to bring? And what's like the vision? Because I know, the vision at the minute has got to be to perform better, but where are you looking at? Are you looking back into the European places over the next couple of years?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of fans of other clubs tipped us to get into Europe this year. They looked at our signings that we made, and people were giving us signing of the transfer window of the league and all the rest of it, and how amazing all these players we've got is. I had a few reservations with some of the players that we signed, and that's unfortunately rung true in the end. But a lot of people had a lot of optimism going into it. And yeah, I was excited. But Potter was a name banded around in the summer. He was part of the selection process, and it was deemed Lopetegui the better option, or the cheaper option at the time. And it was interesting because back at the start of December, when there was a game week of games on Prime, Potter covered our game as a pundit. And he was asked during that game, after we'd lost away at Leicester, we were awful. He said, so, would West Ham be, one of a club if you want to get back into it? And he was very tight-lipped. And then it came out that because he was there that night, he actually met with our technical director that night at the game. So it's been in the pipeline for quite some time, actually. And yeah, I don't mind it. Honestly, we needed a change. We needed something fresh because he just disillusioned the fan base. People say, look, Lopetegui lost a dressing room. He never really had it to start with. And there needed to be a change. An English manager, hopefully with some goals and some driven ideas that we can noticeably see. And look, I'm not expecting much on Friday, but I'm expecting to see some sort of idea and indication of how he's going to go about it. Obviously, he didn't do as well as you'd like at Chelsea, but they were a mess at the time. At Brighton, did very well there before moved on. So yeah, Brighton fans have got good things to say about. He took the club as far as he could. They felt, but he got them to a decent enough position, and I'm just looking forward and hopefully with optimism this time around that lasts a bit longer than 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, your forward lines not really fired much, but you've got a lot of really good attacking players. Like Bowen's not been the same, has he? Kudus has scored, I think, a couple, but nothing major. But so, I mean, the first job's got to get that back line better and firing forward as well. So, what do you think the forward line's sort of going to look like under Potter? You've got Fulkrug that's sort of back in the frame, back fit as well. So, what are you hoping for from your attackers?
Well, Bowen's out for a good couple of months with a foot injury, so that's put us on the back foot before we started. But it also allows the inclusion of Somerville to come in, who has been a shining light, which Lopetegui had a bit of a vendetta against him, I think, because he was our best attacker and best shining light through the vast majority of the first half of the season, and he just could never get a run of games in the team. I'd expect it to be Kudus on one side, Somerville on the other. Down the middle, of course, Antonio's out for obvious reasons, so I'd expect it to be Nicholas Fulkrug down the middle. I'd expect on Friday that to be his front three, with Paqueta sitting just behind and God knows who else in midfield. He'll have his own ideas, absolutely, but there's not a lot else he can do with what we've got there in terms of that forward line. So I'd expect, hopefully, Kudus, Somerville and Fulkrug. If it's anything other than that as a front three, I will be surprised.
Yeah, so, I mean, off field a little bit, we've touched on the bit of a mess. How do you feel like that's going to go moving forward now? You're sporting director or technical director. Is it Tim Steiden? Is that what his name is?
Yeah.
Yeah. So is there a bit of animosity? There was a bit with him and Lopetegui. Is that true or not?
Yeah, look, you can read into what you like, but the premise of what I think has probably happened here. No, look, Steiden pushed to get rid of Moyes. He wanted to get rid of him and get somebody else in. Steiden didn't want Lopetegui. He wanted another manager, but Sullivan didn't want to pay for a better and more adventurous manager. So we ended up with Lopetegui. So Steiden got Kudus to the club, who was, up until this season, absolutely brilliant. Got Alvarez to the club, who was brilliant last season, not so much this season. He got some really good players to the club at the time. I mean, his recruitment last summer was rather questionable when he's actually been relegated down in his hierarchy of the club in terms of transfer business. He's more of a suggester, not a let's go and buy him sort of man now. So Sullivan's demoted him in that sense and took more of a forward role in it. But he didn't like Moyes too much, so he got rid of Moyes. He didn't like Lopetegui, so he's got rid of Lopetegui. It seems like he's orchestrated this Potter deal. He's been seen with him and having meetings with him and all the rest of it. So he has caused some animosity. He's caused some problems with managers, and I think he's rustled some feathers in the boardroom as well, to be quite honest. And I'm expecting a better and closer relationship between these two, Potter and Steiden, because I think Steiden, picked Potter out of, he went, let's go and get him, and it looks like we've got him now. But in terms of transfer business, which was his main sort of target area in the last couple of windows, it hasn't been very good. So by reports, he's been demoted down to not having the final say about transfers. I mean, we spent £100 million on defenders and defensive midfielders in the last 2 windows, and we're woefully defensively just inept. So I can understand why that has happened. But yeah, he has caused some friction. He's brought some good players to the club. The fans are questioning him, and there's also reports that he might leave the club very shortly as well. So it's all up in the air at the moment, and it's all, as you said, a bit of a mess.
Yeah, so we're looking for it to sort of settle down a little bit then. So what does the FA Cup mean to you? I mean, Villa, we haven't won it since the late 50s. So, we haven't won it for a long time, and we've not been doing that great in domestic competitions. So I imagine you feel a bit sort of like reinvigorated with a new manager, fresh approach. So FA Cup, how are you feeling? And how are you feeling about playing Villa?
I think we're going to lose. To be honest, I don't hold too much optimism. No, look, I can understand new manager bounce and all the rest of it, but I don't see it. I really don't. Away at Villa Friday night, I've heard it's some sort of anniversary for you, so there's going to be a bit of a bit of an increase in atmosphere for that. I don't think we're going to fancy it too much. I've got a little bit of hope that Potter can come in and have. I mean, he's going to have like a day with them, or not even that. He's not even announced now. It might be tonight. It might be tomorrow morning. So he's going to have a training session with them. And I mean, he's not Harry Potter. He's not a miracle worker. He's not going to do too much in that time.
Sorry, but do you not think it's a bit strange for him to take this game, though? Having not sort of been involved in training for like a number of days, because how you are set up for set pieces, how you sort of defend, attack them. Do you know, it's not a great amount of time, is it, to rock up at Villa Park with new ideas?
It's West Ham is what it is. I'll be honest, I mean, there's reports saying that he's eager to be in the dugout for that Villa game and wants to hit the ground running and all the rest of it, and let him crack on to an extent. But I do agree that it's gonna be a bit bizarre. I mean, you mentioned it made me laugh when you said like set pieces and the rest of it. We haven't got a clue from that, so we can't get much worse. To be honest, honestly, if it hasn't changed, what you should do is try and watch us from a throw-in and see how long it takes us to throw the ball, because we haven't got a clue, right? And set pieces as well. If we can't shoot from a set piece, we'll spend about 30 seconds umming and ahhing about what we're going to do with it. We are comical in those sort of areas. I wonder what we've done all season on the training ground, but yeah, it can't have too much of an impact in a 2 or 3 hour training session, I'll be honest. So again, similar to what it was like when we played you at the start of the season, I don't really know what to expect, because it's a completely new manager and it's the same players who are the same. I'm expecting the same old problems defensively, and if you've got some quick wingers, you've got somebody quick up front, you have a field day.
Yeah, see, I do think it's going to be quite difficult for Villa, because I think if we can play how we sort of want to play, then I think that's fine. And if we play well, I think we can win. But I think that unknown from you guys is quite difficult to sort of plan for. So I do think it's going to be interesting. So how have you found sort of like Villa this season? Have you seen much of us?
Yeah, I've kept an eye, and it's sort of had a bit of a rough spell from what I can gather. I've seen. I mean, it comes up on our Twitter every time Duran scores. We're like, oh, he should be a West Ham player, and everyone just gets annoyed about that. So we see when Duran scores, which has been quite often actually. But yeah, pushed back a little bit this season is what I've sort of taken a step back, hasn't been to the levels. However, Champions League doing quite well, so maybe that can reinvigorate your second half of the season, because weren't you at one point at the top of the Champions League group, and absolutely mental. But yeah, in terms of the league, has it been a little bit underwhelming? Is that what I can infer?
Yeah, I'd say I wouldn't say underwhelmed. I think we're in the mix still. You know, like we're 4 points off fourth, and that's not that bad, is it? When you look at it like that, and yeah, I would agree that we haven't probably been as good as last season, but it's quite tight, isn't it? You know, how everyone's tight at the minute. So yeah, I think it's yeah, we just got to sort of like match what we've just done, and we probably could get like Conference League. So if we can improve a bit, then we should do a little bit better. I mean, Potter's first 2 away games are at Villa as well, and so we play you.
We're gonna have to start paying
few
council
weeks.
tax there. So you'll have to start paying council tax on
You
the
don't
dugout.
play it in your own, do you?
No, but I mean, I'm just looking. If I'd have told you at the start of the season you'd be 2 points off City in January, you'd think you're blooming going for the title. But it's been a crazy season in the Premier League, hasn't it? So 2 points off City. And if I'd have told you you're that and you're God knows how many points ahead of Man United, you must think you're on for a title charge again. But it's been a funny old season, Forest and sort of other clubs as well. But no, I expect Villa to push on in the second half of the season. We're not going on Friday, but we're going to the league game in a few weeks' time. And Villa Park's not a nice place to go. And regardless of whether you're doing well in the league or whether you've got a slight dip in form, you're 8th, you're still in the mix, as you said. And yeah, it's a tough old place. It's be under the lights for both games as well, because it's 4:30 Sunday in a few weeks' time as well. So 2 tough games against Villa in January. I'm not expecting us to win this on Friday. I'm expecting to see something different, a bit of a performance, something to shout about, something a little bit different. But yeah, I mean, I think most have. I mean, this game hasn't even been mentioned on my Twitter timeline yet because of the chaos that has happened. I forgot it was happening, to be totally honest, until you messaged me the other day. I was like, oh yeah, that is happening, isn't it? Because of everything that's been going on. So attention should now turn to this game once Potter's officially confirmed. Well, that's tonight or tomorrow morning. But yeah, it's been a bit of a whirlwind. So if anybody tries to predict how we're going to play, what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, they'll be lying if they get it right. You want the lottery numbers often, because I haven't got a clue.
Right, so it's been great chatting to you. I imagine I'll speak to you in probably about 3 weeks' time then, so we can preview the same game but in a different competition, and we probably will know a little bit more about what to expect from you guys. So Villa fans, I'll put the links to Jake's channel in the description, in the title, so go and check it out. Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Cheers, mate.